Alexandra winced as she saw the blade come down, sending one of the adventurers flying to the other side of the room. They might be copper-ranked, but they clearly weren't of the same caliber as the Assault Guild, especially in terms of caution. Did these idiots not get a warning that there were traps there? At least they had good reflexes, as the poor elf fighter was instantly surrounded by his allies, holding off the remaining golems. Not that there was any real need to, as the last one fell before their healer even had time to open their potion pouch. Alexandra turned away from the command center's central screen and shook her head, smiling at Amelia's questioning gaze. I'm not sure if I should be pleased or angry, honestly. I mean, the trap worked, and if it did with these guys, it's certainly going to net a few kills, perhaps on an iron or steel-ranked adventurer. But at the same time, I mean, even I can recognize that this trap is pretty bad. No, let's be real. It's very bad. The pressure plate is about as obvious as it can get, and the axe isn't exactly discreet either. Amelia shrugged. In the heat of combat, people tend to forget a lot of things. Remembering those kinds of things is what sets good adventurers apart from the rest. Your level and skill don't matter as much if you can't keep your head cool and focused in the middle of a battle. Yes, but still. Alexandra sighed and shook her head. I guess I do apply a bit too much military standard to these adventurers. I'm too used to mandatory training being pegged onto ranks. But the guild doesn't care about that, does it? It's just a question of power and equipment, at least in the lower ranks. Well, to be fair, the guild does offer training. It's just not mandatory, although it is pretty pricey. Amelia gestured at the screen. It's their choice whether they want to learn from the guild or sheer real experience. Needless to say, a lot of adventurers don't get said experience fast enough, and they, well, die. That's part of the reason why dungeons with insurance policies are so popular with the lower ranks. It gives them a chance to gain experience while risking a few years' worth of essence and all their equipment. For those that had their sentiment of invulnerability stripped away, that's very much worth it. Alexandra tilted her head. Then why don't all dungeons offer the same thing? I mean, if it boosts popularity so much. Amelia shrugged again. There are a lot of reasons. One is obvious, to get the full essence value of dead adventurers instead of taking just a tithe and giving up the rest by resurrecting them. The others, less so. Some believe it detracts from the challenge and the true spirit of dungeon delving. Others believe that the full essence is their just compensation for letting the adventurers do their delves. And some just don't want to bother making and maintaining the insurance policies. Amelia winced. Not to mention all the shenanigans that come with it. Some might see losing their equipment and a few years of progress instead of dying as a definite plus, but others? Others always want more. The vampire girl nodded, and Alexandra chuckled. Sore losers were the same everywhere, apparently, although the stakes were a bit different than on Earth, she supposed. Hey, look, they're moving out again. Alexandra shook herself out of her thoughts and looked at the group of adventurers. They were indeed moving into the next room. It always amazed her how fast you could heal someone, like that elven fighter, with potions and a bit of magic. She idly wondered if it was just overcharging the body's natural processes, or if something else was at work. To-do list updated. Right. She focused back on the screen, where the adventurers were now very cautiously moving through the hallway between the 10th and 11th rooms, probing for any drop axes or spike traps. They'd found the one spike trap easily enough, but the incident in the previous room seemed to have given them a somewhat brutal wake-up call that the golems weren't the only real threat in the dungeon, no matter how easy dodging the traps might seem. The fact that they'd skipped the challenge room altogether proved that they were trying to minimize risks and maximize rewards, at least, which helped explain their caution as well. Finally, however, they stepped into the 11th room, took up a fairly standard combat formation for adventuring parties, and engaged the golems.